On the 5th of November 1896, a small group of cars gathered together in Hyde Park and ritually tore up a red flag. The red flag that up until the previous day Parliament had decreed had to be led by a man in front of every car, and all of those cars being limited to 4 miles an hour. On that day, the red flag was torn up and the speed limit was raised to 14 miles an hour, and the cars that were gathered together processed to Brighton seafront in celebration. 2017, 450 cars took part in that very same ritual. The tearing up of the red flag, the Emancipation Run, which has been run almost every year since 1905 and is restricted to cars that are older than 1905. So the minimum age for these cars in all cases is 112 years.
My name is Gilbert Warning from the Netherlands.
I'm guessing this is your car.
Yes, it's an 1897 Peugeot, Type 14, which was the first model which used their own Peugeot engines. Before this they had Daimler and Panhard engines, V-twins, and in 1897 they started to develop their own engines. And this is the first model that they put it in. Only 18 models were built.
How long have you owned the car, sir?
I'm running it now for approximately 5 years, and we have it for over a few years already since restoration. We did this restoration ourselves.
Well, that's a very impressive job. Is that your line of work, restoring veteran cars, or is this an adjunct?
Well, it looks like my wife says, but no, I do have a different job, and this is just a hobby, but it's far more than a hobby.
Lovely, beautiful. You've enjoyed your run so far?
Yes, really great. The weather is wonderful, and the car is doing terrific, so fingers crossed, and we'll get to Brighton very early, hopefully.
Well, enjoy. We'll see you in Brighton. We'll catch up with you later.
Well,
thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you very much.
It's driving day when anybody who has an old car tries to get it out on the road. Really treasure in this country is the freedom to drive our old cars on old roads. It's like anyone. Next time you come in that filthy thing, put a pan underneath to catch the oil. He replied, well, next time you come and see me, bring a bigger pan for a man called Stevenson up near the Crystal Palace, and his little shop was still going in the 1960s. forks, your chassis, your engine, your gearbox, your back axle. Vis-a-vis or face-to-face, the passengers sit with their backs to the accident, so they don't know what's happening. For sale, and this is your catalogue in 1886. Those were steam cars. They didn't build very many, but it was the first catalogue ever issued for the sale of a motor car. 17 is an 1898 Benz. Going through now is a Bernie Renault, very distinctive radiator design down the side of the middle. Used to have a very good display of early cars, but that's the National Museum of Science. I think it's a shame that they've moved so many of their cars into storage. famous making their day. Turned to making trucks, became part of the Renault company. And there's another curb dash coming through now. This car would not have been, except for the action of an employee of the Oldsmobile company, when the factory caught fire in, I think, 1901. This employee pushed the prototype Oldsmobile out of the factory so that they had a pattern to work from when they went into production. It's generally rather robust little vehicles, like the Oldsmobile and later on the Model T Ford, designed to cope with the cart tracks of rural America. Quite a few more here this morning. Beautiful, beautiful. About the time that this car was built, the horse racers were tearing up the highways of France in cities and city racing. And here we are, another deal vis-a-vis. The whole point about the vis-a-vis is fine unless the passengers are taller than the driver. In which case, it becomes a little bit of a problem. The rich who were racing to Brighton to enjoy a dirty weekend with the Prince Regent in the early years of the 19th century. And here comes the famous Panhard, a car discovered many years ago. It's a private omnibus.
Oh, girl, we'll do this one this side.
Fantastic vehicle. It was unearthed. There we go, there goes the Panhard private omnibus. What a splendid vehicle. It's on a stagecoach on wheels. This is built in days of the school. They're indistinguishable from the early days. The MMC came after the Great Horses Carriage Company went bust. There's another Peugeot coming in. Very distinctive design with a handlebar steering. From London to Brighton today on Victorian bicycles. So give this man a cheer, he's on his way to Brighton. Here we are. High wheeler bicycle on its way to Brighton. Repeating an event of 1869 in which 3 velocipedes raced to Brighton on the same route as the cars are taking today. These are Malcolm. These were the real sports cars of the day. Several of those took part in the original Brighton Run in 1896. Here's another Dedeal Cruiser. The Dedeal Cruiser is the most numerous car on the veteran front. It's massive in the early days, very good cars. is reliable. And we've got the 1066. And this car was one of those that did the Ellis Run this summer, which commemorates the first long-distance drive by a motor car in Britain in 1895. It was revived this summer by the Dion Bouton Club again. It's open to all veterans and it runs from Mitchell-Dever Station in Hampshire to Datchet on the banks of the Thames and there are quite a few of these little Dion vis-a-vis on the run. They were one of the most practical of the first generation of veterans. And the seating system really is inherited from the horse-drawn carriages.
Thank you.
Here comes two more of those veteran cyclists. One of them on a solid-tyred, wooden-wheeled velocipede. Difficult machine to drive, front-wheel drive. This is identical to the machine that did the 1869 run from London to Brighton. Right here we have the two great mates from early American motoring. A 1903 Ford and a 1903. This one has one of the great mates of America. Malcolm Barber, the chief operating officer and principal sponsor of this event. Most of the staff of Bonhams Automotive Department, you'll find driving cars on this event. Malcolm's car was actually found on Hawaii of all places. What do you mean? One of the great mates of America went out of business during the Depression in the 30s and but it's a wonderful terracotta factory. Cars are coming through slightly longer days. We've got on two congested spots on the way down. It's one of the few 5-horsepower Panhards built. That one was found in Geneva.
Yes, curved dash Oldsmobile is not great. Congratulations. First car. There they are. This is Andreas Melkert from Austria with his 1902 curved dash Old. And getting lots of attention, quite rightly, from the photographers and the press.
Car number 163. I'll wait for some photographs, then we'll have a chat with him. Body, which is obviously much lighter than that. So we like this for Brighton because it keeps mud and dry. Quite, yeah. Well, well done and congratulations. Time to go. Beautiful. Rosie Batty, I think. Car 164. Yes, indeed. Love the squeal, Rosie.
Do we want to check any fluids before we start?
Very
Okay, that's extraordinary thing, you know. I mean, you know a lot, and I feel about very skin. I'm absolutely shocked. Well deserved.
Yes, it's got over Daimler.
34.
One of the other ones.
I don't know. They special dangerous because they were the very first cars. I think they're going to start with what number it is you've got to run over there? Oh, it's me. That's carried behind the way. Please stop. DS27. What is that video? Come on, what is it? The video, isn't it?
And it was all covered apart from the, it was well done, and then it's the radiator on the side there.
I'm with Malcolm Barber, co-chairman of Bonhams. Now, Malcolm, you've been doing this for a very, very long time. The company have been doing this for a very long time. Well, you've driven this over 30 times, I think.
Well, yes, my current car has done it 27 times, a couple of terminals over the years, but and then before that I was some friends' cars, and so it's got to be probably in the 35 to 38 years perspective now.
You'll be up for one of those gold medals before very much longer.
Well, yes. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Well, it won't be so very long. Now, that car, I overheard somebody saying earlier, you found that current car in Hawaii, of all places.
Yes, it was amongst a collection of early veterans in Hawaii that were shipped over by the owner's family, and we sold them in England. We dispersed them in 89-90, in fact. In fact, there's quite a few other cars from that collection on the run today, which is nice to see. But he was an avid collector of veteran Brighton cars of the period. We all suffer from this disease of loving cars, and what I've over my years, I've tried to collect a car for different type of events. And not necessarily expensive cars, but things that you can do 50s classics in, or veteran. Of course, being Brighton, it's got to be 1904 or earlier. So, and of course that precludes other cars. So, yes, being an auctioneer, I see some fabulous things, and you're learning things. You see people who are in deep with their cars and understand them and know a lot about them.
Well, I find it quite extraordinary that any company would bring almost this entire management team out on an event like this, and it shows the passion behind the company.
Well, we're all in the senior team in the car department. We're all club members as well, so we're having fun ourselves. It's a hobby, it's a profession, but of course Bonhams is one of the 3 largest auctioneers in the world of everything, not just cars, of fine art and antiques and furniture and jewellery. So, but cars is our particular passion on the exec team.
You had a particularly successful auction 2 days ago of the veteran cars.
Yes, we always start the weekend off with our auction of Brighton eligible cars. We had 27 cars, we sold 26 of them. Very good, and some of them made the run today.
It's brilliant, because some of them came to the auction with pre-registered.
Yes, and also what was so interesting was the Salverson steam cart, that wonderful coal-driven machine that was in the Milligan collection when we sold it in the early 2000s, changed hands, and the new owner and the past owner we sold it for were both on it. I passed them earlier on. It seemed to be steaming very well on Welsh coal. He said Welsh coal's the best things for him.
Not one of the oldest cars, certainly one of the rarest cars, I guess. I'm talking to Mr. John Dennis. Yes, you've seen their fire engines following you all the way around the world. But they were once upon a time car makers.
It originally started in 1895 with bicycles, then went on to tricycles, motor tricycles, and then motor quadricycles, and then by 1901 they started producing cars. Discontinued car manufacturing at the time of the war and concentrated on war requirements. But this is the earliest of the 3 cars that still remain. They probably made around about 2,000 of them in that 11-12 year period.
This one has a slightly unusual history. I gather it was sort of found by your dad in the back of the factory.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right. My father got it out of the factory. It had been taken back, we assume, in about 1910 for a new vehicle. The purchaser did a trade-in, as it were. It remained at the factory till the mid-30s, when my father got it out, and he did his first run in about 34, 35. And did 8 runs, and then gave it to me in 1959.
And you've done every year since, and and just achieved a gold medal for doing so.
That's right. Yeah, I missed out one run. I was in America, but it's done every run since then. And said he, clutching wood. Yes, she completed the run each time.
So this car's done over 60 of these 60-mile runs from London to Brighton.
It makes it 66, in fact, after today's run, yes.
And a nice easy run this time down? Good time?
Yeah, well, timing was, it's taken about an hour and a half longer than normal because of the traffic has not been good today. But touch wood, she's been pretty reliable. I had to change one plug, spark plug. But apart from that, she's been pretty reliable.
As far as you're concerned, you carry on for as long as you can carry on.
For as long as my insurance broker carries on giving me coverage, yeah.
No trouble getting down here then, can't behave yourself.
Immaculately, it ran straight down. We'd have been here an hour ago.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's very nice.
We started the day at daybreak. We're finishing it at sundown, the sun rapidly disappearing over Brighton Pier, and most of the cars are in, but they're still arriving. It's now 4:15. Ordinarily they would have been here all at least an hour or so earlier, but the traffic has been such on the new route that it has been very, very difficult for them to make up their usual sort of time. Michael, it looks like most of the cars are now in. They are still coming in gradually, but for some of them this has been a marathon in cars that are 120 years old in some cases.
And I think probably marathon is the right word. I think it's very easy to forget now when we climb into our cars with heated seats and climate control. At the London to Brighton is a short hop for us. But really this is a gargantuan effort of some of these cars, and it's really impressive they've managed to get down here. We've had a changing landscape of different vehicles rolling through the paddock and swapping and loading up and moving on and another and another. And what an incredible display of all these cars, and how incredible that they've all, at their vintage, managed to make their way down here.
Well, it looks like something like 450 or just over set out. No, I know as we were coming down in the camera car, certainly there were a few that had fallen by the wayside, but by and large, from talking to owners here now, they just fix it and carry on. So I would have thought 95% of those cars at least will probably eventually get here. They may have to stay open a little bit late for some of them, but they will get here. We need to move before we get run over. It has been a fabulous event. Highlights for you?
It's just purely the variety of cars here. I mean, these are cars that you only, if you're lucky, see static in a museum, but to see them all down here and working, and the spirit that goes behind it, everyone's been really friendly. It's what a great bunch of people, and what a great event.
It's odd. That was more just down on power. He's just by the bottom.
It's amazing that so many of these vehicles are still in cherished private ownership, and brilliant that they've all got here. They all look so fabulous, and it's a tribute to their owners' efforts that they've all made it again this year. Well, let's hope we'll be back here next year to see them all again.